Hello, I'm Nancy Bell from Oshkosh Public Library, and this is Book Buzz, where I'll take one book that's recently been getting a lot of buzz on bestsellers lists, review sites, or social media. I'll break it down into definable elements, and then I'll suggest 3 books that have similar themes, writing styles, characters, and overall general vibes. Today we're talking about Book Lovers by Emily Henry. It's been really just well received on Bookstagram. It has such a cute cover, and it's also been talked about on NPR's Here and Now. Nora Stevens can most easily be described as the traditional rom-com villain. She's the girlfriend the leading man leaves behind when he finds an idyllic existence in a small town in Montana with his one true love, who is the daughter of a mayor or a baker or a school teacher, or just a woman he can help save her family's ranch or small business, etc. But Nora loves New York City, and she never plans to leave. She's a cutthroat literary agent and proud of it, and she's never ever having children. But it's not even that she doesn't like children. Her favorite person in the entire world is her younger sister Libby, who has a husband, daughter, and a baby on the way. But Libby seems to be pulling away. So when she suggests a month-long vacation to small-town Sunshine Falls in North Carolina, which just happens to be the setting of one of Nora's writer's highest-selling books, Nora agrees. And Sunshine Falls also happens to be the place where she runs into her all-time nemesis, Charlie Lastra, a grumpy editor who refused to edit a aforementioned bestseller. Will this rom-com villain get a rom-com ending without losing who she is in the process? So let's go ahead and actually break these down into elements, yeah? First up and foremost, this I don't really consider it actually a romance. Is that crazy? I think it's actually more relationship fiction specific. It has the cover and the summary of a classic romance book, I think, but in reality, I think it's more about Nora and all of her relationships. I would say that her relationship with her sister Libby is much more central to the book, necessarily than the one with Charlie. And so this lands us in relationship fiction instead of pure romance. But along with that, we have really well-developed characters. Nora, Libby, Charlie, and to an extent Sunshine Falls, they all feel real. And we get to know their faults, their weaknesses, just like we know those about our closest friends. The writing of all of the banter, my goodness, it's so witty. The banter between Nora and Libby as sisters is absolutely fantastic, as well as the banter between Nora and Charlie as they go from enemy to friends to something else, and it's an absolute joy to read as the relationship progresses. Sometimes characters, they seem to relate in an interesting way in a book that wouldn't make sense anywhere else beyond a Hallmark film, but Emily Henry has really done this relationship and the progression justice. And along with that, it's really engaging. You really come to care for Nora, and, although the book isn't necessarily a page turner, you don't fly through those pages, you do feel for her and you really want closure in her story. So keeping all those elements in mind, let's go ahead and talk about our first read-alike, which is The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. It's also a Good Morning America buzz pick for book clubs, so just something to keep in mind. Working as a library assistant in the tiny village of Chalcott, living in her childhood home, and spending her time off with her best friends, books, 28-year-old June Jones realizes she spent almost 10 years of her life without changing anything at all. And when the news comes that her beloved local library is closing, she has to come out of her safe routine and her safe life to fight to save that library alongside an eclectic group of library patrons. So let's go ahead and break down the elements of The Last Chance Library that makes it a good read-alike for book lovers. First of all, this is relationship fiction. Again, while there is romance possibly in the cards for June, it's not the central message of the story. Instead, we're looking more at June's interaction and relationships that she builds with the rest of these cast of characters, the eclectic patrons, who are really well-rounded. There is a larger cast of characters in this book as opposed to book lovers. So we're not going to get to know them as well as Nora, Libby, or Charlie. But they are really well-rounded and they feel like real people with real problems. And we do really get to know June, her backstory, and why her life seems to have stagnated, even though she is happy. And as a culmination of all of this, it's really engaging. The characters themselves keep us motivated to keep on reading. We care about June and we care about Chalkit's fight to save their library. And as like a bonus unifying factor, it has the theme of books. And that shared theme of books is something I hope to continue with our second read-alike, Confessions of a Curious Bookseller by Elizabeth Green. So this book is definitely not for everybody. It's kind of a love it or hate it kind of book looking at the reviews. But let me try and set you up for success, okay? So most of the people that didn't like it because they thought that they were reading a totally different book, okay? It has a kind of similar setup to the movie You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. If you don't know it, it's a movie about two kind of warring bookstore owners who link up anonymously through email and they fall in love. Okay, so this book is not that movie, so don't start reading it with that expectation. Our main character in this one is Vaughn Birchill, and she is the owner of Curious Cat Book Emporium. She is 100% certain that her used bookstore is the cornerstone of her community. So when an indie bookseller moves in down the block, she's convinced that this new bookstore is invading her territory, and it's the cause of the bad reviews she's been getting online. So this is told in epistolary format using emails, blogs, as well as the Journal of Fawn. And so we come to realize that she's not only unhappy, but she hasn't been honest about her bookstore, her relationships with others, or with herself. So let's go ahead and look into the elements for why this one is a good read-alike for book lovers. First up, it's relationship fiction again. It's all about Fawn's journey and her relationships, and so relationship fiction. We get it. So this one, we do really get to know Fawn, who's a very well-developed character, although we don't necessarily get to know any of the other characters through third-person perspective or anything. We're only hearing about them through their perspective from Fawn. And boy, do we really get to know Fawn. We get to know exactly how flawed she is through her own writing. And into that, some people find her flaws totally unredeemable, while others find her charmingly real. Along with that, this book is told in kind of an amusing way. It's not witty or laugh out funny like Book Lovers is, but it does really lean on humor to talk about very serious issues, especially as Fawn seemingly creates her own reality to avoid her problems. But more obviously, it does have that direct alignment with being book-themed. For our third read-alike, I think this one is probably the most similar in direct comparison to Book Lovers, and this one is The Dogwalkers Diary by Katherine Donahue. Daniel Ashe is a literary agent. He is simultaneously overworked and under-successful. He really just needs someone to care for his dog so he can focus on getting his dream client and saving his career. Enter Annie Doherty. She's a red-headed dog walker and, more importantly, dog listener. Every day, Annie starts leaving behind stories told to her by his dogs about their secret lives as circus performers or as sea captains or other crazy outlandish backstories. And just as you think that obviously the jaded Daniel will fall in love with whimsical Annie, an unpredictable plot twist changes everything. So let's go ahead and get into these elements for why I think it's a good read-alike for book lovers. First up, still relationship fiction, but this one I categorize as contemporary romance. It's actually romance this time. The thing that's central to this book is the romantic relationship between Daniel and Annie, even though there are twists and turns involved in the story. This one also really reminds me of Book Lovers because it has that witty writing style. It has clever use of language that's making you laugh out loud at different situations, and it even takes you through those roller coaster of emotions from pitying Daniel or laughing with him throughout the book. Along with this, it does have that shared extra special element of Daniel being a literary agent, as well as our main character from Book Lovers, who is a literary agent, and it has that shared theme of them trying to find that work-life balance to truly find happiness. And those are the 3 read-alikes I have for you today. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to the library's YouTube channel for more content. If you have any suggestions or questions, please leave a comment. Or you can always get a hold of me at the library reference desk, which I'll leave a link down below. Thank you so much for watching, and let's all get back to reading.